In the heart of Arabia lies the largest sand desert on Earth, a place so vast and empty, it is known as the Rub al-Khali. And for millennia, this desert has held a secret, a legend of a magnificent lost city swallowed by the sands. The Quran calls it Iram of the Pillars. Bedouin legend knows it as Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands.
The legend tells of a city of unimaginable wealth, whose merchants grew rich on a single precious commodity: frankincense, a fragrant resin that in the ancient world was worth more than its weight in gold.
It was burned as a holy incense in the temples of Egypt, Babylon, and Rome. It was the most prized perfume, medicine, and status symbol of the age, and it grew in only one place on Earth. The city of Ubar, the legend says, controlled this trade. It was the starting point of the Great Frankincense Road, a perilous journey taking many months across the deadliest desert on the planet. The wealth that flowed into Ubar from this trade was said to be legendary, its towers and pillars unmatched. But the ancient stories also contain a warning, a tale of a city grown arrogant and proud from its great wealth. The legend says that as a punishment for its hubris, the city was cursed by the heavens. And the desert itself rose up and swallowed the city whole, leaving no trace behind. A cautionary tale told for centuries by the Bedouin of a city that vanished in a single night. For most of modern history, this story was treated as just that, a myth, a fairy tale of the desert. But one man, an English explorer and adventurer, became obsessed with the tale.
Lawrence believed that the Atlantis of the sands was real, and he dreamed of being the one to find it.
He never found Ubar. His life was consumed by war and politics. But his obsession inspired a new generation. His Bedouin guides spoke of a legendary lost city destroyed for its wickedness, its ruins still haunted.
The stories fueled the legend, but the desert guarded its secrets. For another 50 years, Ubar remained a myth. Then, in the 1980s, a new kind of explorer took up the quest, armed with a powerful new tool. He had a radical idea: to search for the lost city, not from the ground, but from space.
He convinced NASA to use the shuttle's powerful ground-penetrating radar to image the empty quarter.
The hope was that the radar could see what the human eye could not, the faint traces of the old caravan routes. And as the images came into focus, something miraculous appeared.
The radar had revealed the forgotten highways of the frankincense trade, perfectly preserved. And the team saw that many of these ancient roads converged on a single, specific point, a place where a great city must have stood. The next step was to go there. Guided by the satellite maps and the knowledge of local Bedouin trackers, they honed in on the target.
They arrived at a place known to the locals as Shisser, a desolate spot with the ruins of a small, crude fort.
At first, it seemed like a dead end. The fort was from a much later Islamic period. But as they dug deeper beneath the foundations of the later fort, they began to find something else. Pottery from the Roman Empire, from Greece, from Persia. This was not a simple desert fort.
This was a major international trading hub, exactly where the satellite had predicted it would be. Then they found the towers. Not the slender pillars of the legend, but the massive corner towers of a great fortress.
This was the fortress of Ubar, the citadel that protected the wells and guarded the beginning of the Frankincense Road.
But the excavation revealed something else, something that explained the legend of the city being swallowed by the sand.
The fortress had been built directly on top of a massive underground limestone cavern. The city's wells, which were its source of life, were also its source of doom, slowly weakening the cavern's roof. Then, sometime around 500 AD, perhaps triggered by a small earthquake, the cavern roof collapsed.
The legend was true, not in its details, but in its essence. Ubar, the Iram of the pillars, had been swallowed by the sand. The discovery of Ubar was a triumph of a new kind of exploration, where ancient texts and modern technology worked together.
It is a story that proves that even the most fantastical legends can sometimes hold a kernel of truth, and that there are still great discoveries to be made, not just in the jungle or the deep sea, but hidden in plain sight. A forgotten truth, preserved not by a curse alone, but by the slow, inexorable movements of the desert sand that hid the evidence for millennia.
Ubar's story is a reminder that our own world rests on a fragile crust, both literally and figuratively.
And that the greatest tales are often not pure invention, but the embellished memories of real and extraordinary events.
The Atlantis of the sands was not a myth, it was a memory, waiting for the right tools to be read.
A story of wealth, of pride, and of a fall that was remembered for 1,000 years. A legend that led us back to a truth, reminding us that even the emptiest places on Earth are full of stories waiting to be discovered.
The discovery at Shuttle was a media sensation, but in the world of archaeology, it sparked a fierce debate.
Was this small fortress truly the magnificent, wealthy Iram of the pillars described in the Quran? Skeptics argued that Ubar was not a single city, but a region, a land of the Iramites. To prove the case for Shizr, the team had to prove its unique importance. They turned to the water. Their surveys confirmed that the well at Shizr was the only significant source of fresh water for 100 miles in any direction. Any caravan crossing this vast wilderness would have had to stop here. It was the linchpin of the entire region.
This confirmed Shizr's importance. But what of its age? Could it be tied to the time of the great frankincense trade?
The results were a perfect match. The fortress had been occupied from the time of the Roman Empire back to at least 1000 BCE.
The evidence was now overwhelming. Shizr was the fortress of Ubar, the lost hub of the frankincense trade.
The discovery changed our understanding of ancient Arabia, proving it was not a primitive backwater, but a sophisticated player in the global economy. But what of the legend? Why was the city remembered not for its wealth, but for its dramatic destruction? Catastrophes are memorable. They become cautionary tales, passed down through generations long after the details of trade and taxes are forgotten. The collapse of Ubar was a terrifying geological event. The legend preserved the moral meaning behind it, a divine punishment. The story of a proud city punished for its wickedness became a powerful lesson, ensuring the memory of the place, if not its exact history, would survive. But there was another reason the trade routes died. The world was changing. The demand for frankincense was about to collapse. With the spread of Christianity, the old pagan rituals were suppressed. The empire's biggest customer for frankincense simply stopped buying. The collapse of the Ubar fortress and the collapse of the frankincense market happened around the same time. A civilization and its economy gone. And so the desert, which had been a highway, became a barrier once more. The great empty quarter returned to its silence. The story of Ubar is a story of how a civilization can be built on a single, fragile resource, and a reminder that no matter how valuable the resource, the world and its demands will
always change.
But the true legacy of the Frankincense Road is the connection it forged, a bridge between cultures, a thread of fragrant smoke that tied the ancient world together, and whose memory still haunts the sands.
The search for Ubar was a quest to find a legend, but it discovered a history far richer and more complex than any myth, proving that the real stories buried beneath the sand are the most fantastic of all. A forgotten chapter of our shared human story, finally reclaimed from the silence of the empty quarter.
The discovery of Ubar did not just solve a legend, it illuminated a forgotten corner of our interconnected world. It is a story that challenges our perception of the desert, seeing it not as a barrier, but as a highway.
And it reminds us that some of the greatest discoveries are made not by lone adventurers, but by collaboration. The ancient texts of Ptolemy and the oral traditions of the Bedouin provided the map.
And the eye of a satellite, a tool of the space age, provided the key to finally read it.
The story of Ubar is a perfect fusion of past and future, of legend and science.
It proves that the age of discovery is not over. There are still lost cities to find.
And that some of the greatest treasures are not gold or jewels, but a story reclaimed from the silence. The city of Ubar was destroyed by a flaw in its foundation, a hidden emptiness beneath it. But the legend of Ubar was built on a foundation that could not be broken. The human need to tell stories. A need to find meaning in catastrophe. To preserve memory. And to dream of worlds hidden just beyond the horizon.
The frankincense trade is gone. The city is a ruin. The great caravans are dust. But the story of Ubar, the Atlantis of the sands, will be told as long as there are campfires in the desert.
And as long as we have the courage to look at our oldest legends with our newest eyes. A story that proves that even the emptiest places on Earth are full of wonders, waiting to be found. And so the legend was put to rest, and a real history was unearthed. But the romance of the quest itself holds its own power. The story of Ubar is also the story of the explorers who hunted it, from the romantic dreamer to the driven scientist. It is a testament to human curiosity, the relentless desire to fill in the blank spaces on the map. But it also serves as a warning about the seductive power of a good story. The legend of a city of pillars was so powerful that for decades, some explorers may have overlooked Shizur because it was a fortress of towers. It reminds us that sometimes the search for what we want to find can prevent us from seeing what is actually there. The true story of Ubar is less romantic than the legend, but far more incredible. It is a story of geology, of climatology, of economics, and of the incredible power of a new technology to see the past. The Atlantis of the sands was not a myth. It was a memory distorted by time, waiting for the right tools to be read. A legend that led us back to a truth, reminding us that even the emptiest places on Earth are full of stories waiting to be discovered. The ruins of Ubar do not boast of kings like the grand tombs of the pharaohs. Its greatest monuments were not built for the gods, but for the grueling reality of the camel. Its true legacy is a ghost road, an invisible thread of connection across the sand. A thread held not in stone, but in the memories and stories of the desert's people. For a story to survive for 1,000 years, it needs a powerful, dramatic heart. The tale of a city punished for its pride is a story we tell ourselves again and again. Today, new towers of glass and steel rise from the Arabian sands, built on a different precious resource. A powerful reminder
that any civilization built on a single, finite treasure rests on hollow ground. The search for our past has not ended. The tools have just become sharper, our eyes more powerful. With these new eyes, we see entire landscapes of history hidden from us for millennia. The new quest is not for treasure, but for understanding, a prize of a different kind. The Frankincense mirage led explorers on a perilous journey for centuries. But by chasing this phantom, they stumbled upon a forgotten truth about our shared past. It proves that even our myths and mistakes can sometimes lead us back to the right path. The city's pillars have fallen. Its wealth is dust. Its people are a distant memory. But its story, once a whisper of myth, is now a clear chapter in human history. A story that now belongs not just to the desert, but to the entire world. The desert keeps its secrets well, but it rewards those who listen, both to its stories and to its silence. A reminder that the emptiest places on our map are often the fullest of stories, waiting only for the right eyes and the right questions to bring them back into the light. It is a story of wealth, of pride, and of a fall that was remembered for 1,000 years. A legend that led us back to a truth, reminding us that even the emptiest places on Earth are full of stories waiting to be discovered. The physical city may be gone, but the Frankincense Road has not entirely vanished. It has a ghost. Today, the ancient frankincense trees of Oman are a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site, a living link to the ancient wealth that built and perhaps doomed the Atlantis of the sands.
The story of Ubar is a cycle, a story of a city that rose from the desert and was returned to the desert.
A perfect myth to explain a geological truth, a historical puzzle solved by a view from the heavens. It is a story that proves that even the most fantastic legends can hold a kernel of truth, and that there are still great discoveries to be made, not just in jungles, but hidden in plain sight. A truth buried not by a divine curse, but by the slow, inexorable movements of the desert sand.
A story of wealth, of pride, and of a fall that was remembered for 1,000 years.
A legend that led us back to a truth, reminding us that even the emptiest places on Earth are full of stories waiting to be discovered.